Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Insecure Refresher. I am Brittany, better known as Be Right Breeze out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we have my beautiful, amazing sister joining me. I will allow
Oh.
her to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Genia Wright. You can find me on all the social media platforms at the only Genia Wright.
Excellent. So, you guys, you're back. That means that you loved our season one, our Insecure season one recap
It was so
slash
fun.
review. It
Yeah,
was so fun.
it was fun.
But I will tell you, we have decided, which Janai came up with this, we're going to condense the words because we were saying review slash recap, okay? We're just going to condense that to refresher. So let's all say that together. Insecure refresher.
Refresher.
So today we are
But it's
going to be
also good for people who didn't watch it at all.
yes, exactly. So
Because the point is to get the gist. To get
yes,
the gist of the characters, to get the gist
yes,
of the main storylines, so that you have enough
yes,
information for the next season. So you can
exactly.
watch this refresher and you got enough in the event
You
that
got
you
enough.
aren't able to
You
watch
know
the
what's
next
going
season,
on.
or if it's just been a while since you watched the last season, it can be a
Listen,
refresher.
those are the perspectives Janaya and I are coming from.
Hmm.
I have been watching Insecure as soon as it came on, from watching all the ups and downs and everything throughout the years. And Janaya, she has known about Insecure, but life has not been allowing her to be able to just really be consistent in watching it. And now she's given the opportunity to sit down, hashtag stay
So
home,
good.
hashtag quarantine,
It's so good. It's so
and get a
good.
chance. It's so good and get a chance to watch it. So yes, so recap plus review equals refresher. We are here for you. But do know that when we get into season 4, we're going episode by episode. And warning now, all spoilers. So let's just jump right in. So as we did before, we are going to go character by character. So first, let's start off with Issa. So we know that she is fresh out of this breakup with Lawrence. And so think about if you've ever been in a breakup scenario or situation where you've just gotten your heart broken or you're just trying to figure things out. Life is new now, it's a new normal for you. What are some things that you're trying to do? Well, let's just go through Issa's life a little bit. On a professional side, she is at her job and she is now working at a high school. Someplace, a high school that has not normally gotten a lot of attention from the program. And her program director really finds it hard to work in high schools because it just seems like the high school students aren't as receptive as the middle school students. But Issa wants to persevere at this school because of the number of Black and Brown students at the school. So at the school, you find her though that she is running into a brick wall. She's going into the classes and she's introducing herself, her and Frida, but the kids just aren't coming to the program. So she goes and she sits down. She has a meeting with the principal. Listen, my boss is going to be having our program leave here if we can't
I
get
think it
these
was the
students
vice
to join
principal.
in.
I think it was the
The
vice
vice principal
principal. Hmm.
was not going to allow us to have any students to come into, we're not going to be able to be at this school anymore if we don't get any students in our program. And having this interaction with him, which I will say it is important to say that he is a Black man in this role, leading the children, he did say, listen, who's your teacher that you're currently working with? He gets her a new teacher to work with. The next time they come in, class, the library where they have their after school class is full of about 10, 15 students. So it's like, this is a win. So things are going well with that. However, after speaking with the principal, he says some things that are quite racist against some brown students, the Latino community. And he's basically focusing his efforts on the Black students. I think this is really huge that Insecure would bring this in to show that as people of color, there might be this mindset that we're all looking out for each other and that everybody is on one accord in certain situations. And the truth of the matter is that's not always the case. Janai, you speaking with of that, is there anything you can expound on that and also more just on Issa and getting into other parts of her life?
Yeah, I was really excited for Insecure to bring up this theme. They do such a great job of raising just some of the very important conversations that we're having today as people of color, but in general,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
this topic of internalized racism, people of
Mm-hmm.
color looking for ways to marginalize other groups and that kind of
Ah.
thing. All that's something that we really do grapple with. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I was really happy to see them bring that up. What ends up happening is after a while, Issa at first, she is just happy to have her program having more students in it, regardless of race. And the vice principal is continuing to, put Black kids in the program. Issa does start to get a little bit of a complex about it. She runs into some Latinx youth that actually do need some support. They clearly need the support. The vice principal's been telling them the program is full. She comes up with this solution in partnership with her great colleague, Frida. She comes up with this solution of kind of like having some supplementary program on the weekend so that the
Mm-hmm.
Latinx students can get support from their
Yeah.
nonprofit. We got y'all. And of course, when Issa's supervisor gets wind of the fact that there's a Black program running at the school and a Latinx program running on the weekends at the office, it goes down in flames. Issa gets chewed out. Frida ends up getting a promotion off of the success of the program and the fact that she was never supportive of Issa kind of having this segregated approach. So there were a lot of really important things there. And if we did get a chance to continue to see the relationship between Issa, again, it's our favorite mogul, Issa Rae, and,
Yes.
this wonderful actress, Lisa Joyce, that's playing the character of Frida. She just does such a great job of being, a white woman who is working really hard to be an ally to communities of color
Yes.
and is doing the hard work, just kind of grappling with it. So I really appreciate that. And that's actually a good segue to, another part of Issa Rae's life, which is just, her dealing with her very, very, super fun and, super exciting group of girlfriends.
Yes.
She has, her ace, Molly,
Mm-hmm.
and they have some additional girlfriends, Kelly and Tiffany. And, we get to see them all really, really have some interesting storylines in this season. I wonder if we should talk about Molly a little bit. Britt, what do you think?
Sure. Let's jump in.
I started thinking about Molly because Molly is also dealing with the race stuff at her office. You may recall from season 1 that Molly is a successful attorney. Well, we find out at the beginning of season 2 that she actually is getting paid less than her coworkers. And so we watch her throughout this season um, essentially trying to continue to put in a ton of effort at work, which she has always done. And
Mm-hmm.
also,
Mm-hmm.
she's having this conversation with her superiors. She's saying, listen, it's time for me to get a bonus. She doesn't call out the fact that she's getting paid less, but she does go ahead and talk to them about her contributions and challenge them to pay her more. And I really
And
appreciated that.
Lord,
And
if they
then
don't,
and then
I
she
tell you.
so then she goes to the market, starts
Mm-hmm.
applying for other jobs, and she's simultaneously taking on new responsibilities at work. And in her new responsibilities, she actually ends up meeting a guy. It's a coworker, and this is the storyline with Quentin. Britt, you want to talk about Quentin, played by Lil Ray,
Lil
Power
Rel,
Ray? Oh yeah,
Lil
yeah,
Rel,
Lil Ray.
who is a stand-up comedian who is
Yeah, I know
amazing.
his stand-up stuff.
He actually had a show that was doing well. That had about 1 or 2 seasons, I think, on Fox. So shout out to Lil Rel.
And he did a
So
great
I
job
see.
in this season. He's really
He
good.
did do a great job in this season. What I love seeing between Molly and Little Rell's first camaraderie that happens in the places with people of color, and namely, I will say Black people, because you can see their immediate interaction of they're able to say side jokes and understand each other. That I still respect you and we're in a professional place, but I'm also able to say these things to you in comfort and know that they're not going anywhere because we're experiencing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Little Quentin is out of the Chicago office. So what's happening is that Molly is traveling between LA and Chicago, as is Quentin. And so as their interaction begins to increase, Quentin typically lets her know in so many ways that he is interested. And Molly has started going to therapy. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that her therapist has pointed out to her is that, listen, you're always saying the word should. And that was one of the things that came up about Quentin, is that, is he someone that I should be with? Is
Mm.
that the person that I was, that does he fit into the life that I'm supposed to have?
Mm-hmm.
Well, while I'm talking about Quentin, it is important to bring up who she was also dating that she met out at a party, which is our one of our favorite This Is Us
Mm.
characters.
I love me some Sterling K. Brown. Hear what I say.
listen,
Love
listen.
him. I
That is
mean,
uh,
he,
everything about him.
he's just so great. He's
He's so
so
great.
great.
He's so
I
great.
enjoy him greatly, you
Yes,
know. And in this
and it.
show,
Uh-huh.
he represents the prototype. Like he is like,
Yes.
if Molly were to just like write up her list of like attributes, and
Mm-hmm.
he like checks all these boxes, right?
Every
So
box.
you're happy to see him, but it turns out to be bittersweet. It's bittersweet
Yeah.
because she enjoys him. They have good conversation, but she's just
Yes.
not that into him, you
I
know.
think his character's name is Lionel
Mhm.
in this
Mhm.
episode. And so you have this dynamic now in Molly's life where you have Lionel who represents what she mentions. He said it just seems like he's just trying to check off the wife box as she's talking to Lisa. And Lisa kind of calls her out and says, isn't that something you've been trying to do? You were trying to
Mhm.
do as well? Because right now, at this point in Molly's life, she was kind of being low key in terms of dating. She was just wanting to kind of get some things together. But as in life, you can start singing the Deborah Cox song, How Did You Get Here? So you start
Nobody's
to
supposed
see,
to be here. Yeah,
listen,
yeah.
say it
But it's
again.
a little different.
Listen,
It's a little different
it's a
because in
little
that
different.
song, I
Some
think
other
things,
things.
yeah.
We're focusing on the chorus.
Yeah, it's
We're
okay. So
focusing on the
thematically it's
chorus.
not really aligned.
Yes.
But that
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
particular language, that
Yes.
chorus, it
That
resonates
chorus.
very well for
Because
this storyline.
I'm minding my business. I'm
Hmm.
not dating
Here I
nobody. And
am.
actually, I'm out at this nightclub trying to help Issa get into what we'll speak about later, her rotation. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm trying to help Issa out right now.
Yeah.
And so you see Molly with Quentin, who is her co-worker. And if you don't know Little Rel, he's a short
It's
little portly
Lil.
guy.
Lil.
He's a look right, little Rel. He's a short portly guy.
Hmm.
He's not like Sterling K.
In
Brown, who's tall and
in the
chocolate, and
in the show, he calls himself. He says he has a preacher's body,
he has a preacher
a preacher's build.
body.
He says a preacher's build, if I recall
He's so
correctly.
funny.
It was so funny, and I just feel like
It
that was
was
an
so
ad lib.
perfect.
I feel like that
He was
was
like, I got
him,
a
the comedian,
yeah,
saying that. It was
yes,
just so good, you know.
yes.
And neither of them is. I mean, we know, and Brittany, you touched on this. You know, I'm so happy. Molly's therapist was really dropping some nuggets every
Listen,
time we had a session
listen.
with her. She dropped some nuggets, and she
We
talked
was in
about.
therapy with
We really
her.
were because we all need to be. And
Listen.
she talked about magical thinking as a medical term, is thinking
Mm,
that we can influence the external world as opposed to accepting things as they are.
Ooh,
know? And so here she
child.
has Lionel. The zh ain't quite there. Okay. But
There's
she's
no
trying to keep it,
chemistry. There's
not a lick,
no
not a
connection.
lick, not a lick. And then she has Quentin, who there's this great chemistry, but he isn't necessarily the type that she
Mm-hmm.
has been wanting for herself. And then there's a third guy who surfaces this season, and it's actually a childhood friend. The character's name is Dro, played by Sarunas J. Jackson. And the first thing I have to just pause to say, this man is fine. I know that's not probably
Oh no, it's part of
appropriate
it.
because
Listen, if you
what we're
forgot, we
talking
need to
about now
refresh
is,
you.
yeah,
Be
mm-hmm,
refreshed on
yeah,
his face.
he is. And what you like so much about him, what makes him attractive, it's not even just like, it's not his looks, because frankly, all of the men in this show are beautiful.
Every
They're
last
all of them are
one.
great looking. But what
There's
makes
no
him
issues.
so good is his rapport with Molly. That's attractive. Chemistry is
Yes.
attractive. And the kind of chemistry they have is that kind of chemistry that, as we grew up together, we have all the same inside jokes. My mom and them,
Yes.
and so they just have this great
They grew up
rapport,
across the street from each other. I
literally
know
across the street.
everything.
And that rapport makes him so attractive. But there's a hitch. Sis, you want to get into the
Hmm.
hitch?
Listen, let's talk about Dro.
Yeah,
Dro, this
there's a
third
hitch.
option that has got up in her life, this childhood friend, he is married. Okay. Here's the thing though. Him and
Hmm.
his wife
And
have
married to
agreed
somebody
to
she
open
knows. Married to somebody
married to
she
someone
knows.
she knows. Okay, they are friends.
Hmm.
Candace, her name is Candace.
Candace.
Candace and Dro have an open marriage.
Hmm.
And with Dro eventually tells Molly why. He tells her after he hits on her. Molly is like, I'm sorry, you're a whole married person. What are we saying right now? This is not going to work out.
Woo!
And then, but he's like, oh, about our marriage being open, and she's cool with it. She's actually the one that suggested it.
Hmm. And
So Molly,
she's played by the actress Gabrielle Dennis.
Gabrielle Dennis is so good.
She's so good. She is one of those
Everything she
actresses that
plays.
I know we would be best friends if we hung out. I
Right.
feel like me and her and like Issa Rae, like, and Yvonne Orji, I feel like we're best friends,
Yes.
like, just because it's like clearly we're soulmates. So
We're
anyway,
soulmates.
get at me,
Yes.
Gabrielle. I'm sure I would call her Gabby if we were friends. Call me
Is
Gabby, girl. So funny. Anyway, so Candace, you were saying. Mm-hmm.
Your homegirl Candace.
Yeah, yeah. I call her Gabs.
Gabs,
Gabrielle
yes,
Dennis. I
yes.
call her Gabs.
She is the one that suggested that they have the open marriage, and Dro is letting Molly know if you ever wanted to link up, it
Mm-hmm.
would be okay. Molly is at a crossroads because she's like, is this real life? What we're learning more about Molly is that something that really resonated with me is that you base love off of, which we all can, off of what we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Molly's parents have been married all her life. She loves her dad, and she is just wanting someone that will love her just the way her father has. In
Mm-hmm.
this particular season, her parents are renewing their vows. At the vow renewal, where Sterling K. Brown is there, his character Lionel, at
As
the
her
vow
date.
renewal, she as her date. And Dro is there. Why? Because Dro is the family friend. Him and his parents have come from across the street to come
Mm-hmm.
to the vow renewal because it is in their
Because of course
backyard.
they would. Because of
Because of
course they
course
would.
they
Because
would. It is
they are
family.
like that's right.
That is family. And so as Molly is at this event, Molly's aunts, in perfect aunt fashion, they're talking too much.
Why are
And
aunts like always spilling beans?
they're
Aunt,
talking
keep
too
the
much, too
beans
much.
in the can.
In
Stop
the
spilling them.
can. Beans are so hard to get out of cans. You have to use a can opener.
Girl, but once
Leave
they
them
out,
in there.
girl, but once they
You
out,
ain't closing that
them beans
can.
is out.
There's no resealable cans. That doesn't
Mm-mm.
exist. It doesn't
Mm-mm.
exist.
No, because then that would be
And so
Gladware.
Some beans that came out
Mm-hmm.
of this auntie's can is that the father, Molly's father, stepped out on his mother at
At
some
some
point when she
point,
was
we don't know
younger.
how. Yeah, it
We
was in the
don't know
past.
when. It was at some point. And we're talking years ago, right? Because Molly is in her
Ugh.
late 20s or 30s now. So, but for Molly, this is fresh, okay? This is fresh for her. She is experiencing it because this is the first she's hearing about it. But also, what we're experiencing is that the last line of hope that she has, that true love, true, faithful, loyal love exists, now been shattered. It has been broken. And Molly's mind is like, what is happening? I have this coworker right now, this preacher body coworker that I have great chemistry with and we have great conversation, but he's not who I pictured myself with. But it's okay because we did do a little something on the side because they did end up having a little loving on the side one evening. I then also have Lionel, who he checks off all these boxes, and I would be proud to take him anywhere. And I believe he would still go the same speed as myself, but we have zero chemistry. Now I have Dro is this, and I've known him all my life. He is married and he wants to have sex with me. No, I can't do
Mm-hmm.
this. Why? Because I'm waiting for what my parents have. And
Mm-hmm.
now what I thought my parents have is
Mm-hmm.
nothing.
That's right.
It's nothing to me in my mind now.
Right.
And so Molly storms out. She is upset. She is hurt. She leaves. At this moment, you see her and Lionel's relationship end because Lionel, in this moment, he doesn't know what to do. But that's when Dro steps in. And you see a new dynamic start to happen between Molly and Dro because at this point, she's hurt. And she does what a lot of us may do is that we act out in that hurt. And she does do something that she would never want to do, which is sleep with Dro. And she begins a sexual relationship with Dro whenever he comes to town. He doesn't live in town anymore, but he travels there often for business. So,
And she continues to
Janai,
see him. She continues to see
yes.
him. She continues to see him throughout the season. And she has these moments where she hates herself for it. She has these moments where
Mm-hmm.
she's like, well, if his wife is fine with it, she does. There is a moment where she ends up being in a space together with his wife. They're all in the same space. And she very much has side chick treatment in that Dro doesn't acknowledge it. So it's not the kind of open marriage where it's like, oh, wife, here's someone else I'm sleeping with. Let's all chit chat and be
Mm-hmm.
friends. It's still one of those, you know, keep it in the shadows, keep it in the hush. And
I have
so
another song. I don't want to know if you're playing me. Keep it on the low.
right, seriously. And so she gets a chance. She gets a chance. And actually, you know what's this? There was an actual song that they played because you guys, you know the soundtrack.
Yes,
The soundtrack is
top notch.
so good on this
It's
show. The
so good.
soundtrack is good.
Listen.
There was actually a song that they played on episode 2 that is by Tidra Moses, and it's called "You Better Tell Her." Okay,
Mm.
and in this song, the chorus is, "If I'm believing what I hear is true, then there's a broad running around town that's claiming you. And listen, Daddy, I'm too cute to fight, and you better get that
Mm.
bitch told tonight. And I don't ever, I mean never, ever, ever want to deal with this again. You better tell her, tell her, tell her, tell her." This is one of those, listen, I don't want to even deal with it. And I think that that is the kind of arrangement that Candace and Dro have. It's like, listen, I know that you're doing your thing. We're being honest about it's happening. I don't want to be in the weeds, but it is apparent that Candace knows. It's apparent that Candace knows. She engages in chit chat with Molly, but there's a tension on both sides. So it's obvious that Candace knows, but she doesn't want to talk about it. So
Mm-mm.
anyway, Molly ends up, on again, off again with Dro. And there does come a point where she does break free of it. So, by the end of the season, she's no longer seeing Dro. There's still an open question about Quentin, and Lionel is gone. Lionel is gone.
Oh, correction on the floor. At the end. of this season, Jerome is at the door.
Oh, that's right. That's
And
right. Big
baby,
correction.
it wasn't like he came to her house and to her apartment and
As a
surprised her.
surprise.
Oh no, she was laying out lingeries.
Girl, you are
Okay?
so
The
right. That was the
lingerie,
last.
honey.
Yes. You are so right.
She was laying it out and saying, listen, he was on his way. It leaves you in kind of like, okay, she's smiling, she's happy. The last thing we heard about Dro, she's texting him, I can't do this. Then
That's what it
you're
was.
like,
Then he
okay,
came circling right on
maybe it's
back.
a little rail. Maybe in my mind, I said, even though I had seen it before, I was like, is it Lil Rail that's coming back?
Right.
Is it
Who is
Quentin
it?
coming to her apartment? Because
It
I
was
know it's
not,
not Lionel.
it wasn't a
I
little
was
rail.
like, and it was not, you guys. It was Dro.
That's
So
right.
you leave off of Molly's story, like, which I will use for myself. You are actively making a choice where you are pretty certain that this is not what you want, but we are in a space right now with Molly that she is hurting and
Mm-hmm.
wants to do what feels good.
Mm-hmm. And
Mhm.
also she now realizes that perfection is not real. And
Nope.
so she's trying to figure out what can work for her. So
Yes.
thank you for the correction, Britt. So by the end of the season, to wrap the Molly storyline, we know that Lionel is gone. We know that Quentin is, as far as
Still
we know,
her coworker.
he's still her co-worker, and we didn't see her break it off with him, and then Dro is at the dough. Just, and this is probably a good point to mention another bit of truth that comes to light and is fleshed out a little bit more, and that is with the Tiffany Dubois and Derek Dubois marriage.
Yes.
So we find
Yes.
out in this season that, or we got a nod to the fact that Derek actually lived outside of their home for 6 months last year.
Yes.
Fast forward to today, and they're pregnant. They having a baby,
They're
and
having a
so
human.
they're having a baby. So this is just another marriage that is not perfection, but is going on. And
But
so
it's
Molly
going
is
on.
is getting these reality checks. There's actually a huge Tiffany and Derek related storyline that we'll circle back to later. Tiffany actually ends up having a party for Derek, and it
Yes.
turns out to be a really climactic moment because it is a moment
For all
where
the characters.
all the characters are brought together. And so, as it relates to Molly, that is that first time that she's
Yeah.
there with Candace, with Dro, um, and everybody's there together. So it's that circle is just, it's full of relationship,
Yes.
but relationships that aren't perfect. So that's
Yes.
what Molly sees. And to round out the girlfriend group, Kelly, actually this season, again played by Natasha Rothwell, also my imaginary BFF. Um,
Listen,
and
absolutely.
Kelly, this season, a couple of things happened. She's been training for a 5K, so she's up on her fitness right now in a renewed way. Also, she meets a guy while they're out, and he ends up becoming someone that she's having some steadiness with. We didn't hear any titles, if I recall correctly, but he's
Right.
around. He's around. He's also at this party, this kind of culminating event where all their friends are together. Um, so
And
that's
he is played by a comedian, Ron G.
so
Ron
funny.
G is hilarious. He is known for his one of his jokes, the R&B comedian. So Ron G was
He
hilarious
does a
in
really
this
good
role.
job. He does
He
a good
was
job.
perfect being this opposite funny Kelly and being quirky as well. And I don't even know if we actually know his character's name because Kelly couldn't remember his name. He was like, we'll just call him Boo. And then it's like Kelly. Her character is hilarious, which we do learn more about her profession, is that she's an accountant and she does taxes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And to get back to what we were speaking about earlier in terms of racism in the office, Kelly is a perpetuator. of trying to make things equal, as she will put it, where she says, I get back by not doing all the white people's taxes correctly. She said, because I call that reparations. And so it's she just her character and the things that comes out of her mouth
It's
and the
just
things that
so
she
good.
actually does. It's so good and it's so funny.
And it's like
Um
it's a part that was like written for her. You know,
exactly.
there's certain characters that can never be played by anyone else
No.
in the world.
Mm-mm.
And so this will be interesting, a bit of research. You know, did Issa write that role with Natasha in mind?
That
I
would
kind of
be a
feel like
good
the answer
question.
has to be yes, because of
She's
how
so
much
good at it.
she just embodies that persona so well. So
She
well.
does. She creates it. It's when
Mm-hmm.
you see her, she is Kelly. Like that's what you
Yeah.
feel like. So I totally
Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah.
And one thing I did want to mention before we move too far away from Molly's storyline is that she does have a conversation with her mother.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
going back to just your point about that love is
Mhm.
not perfect.
Yep.
There's something that is out here that has given, and I will say Disney, right? We can say Disney, we can say any rom-com, right?
Yeah,
We can
Lifetime.
we
It's
a
all it's
lifetime
all
is
depictions
out
of
here
love.
running amok saying that love is perfect, or that love will always fall into place. That things that making it as if you'll be able to get through everything sometimes,
Like it's
but
magical
not.
and not a choice.
Yes,
A
like
series
it's
of
just
choices, daily
right.
choices.
When the truth of the matter is, love is a decision, and her mother is very clear that I had to think about your father did more good to me than hurt. She
Mhm.
doesn't use those exact words, but it's very similar in that way,
Mhm.
where she's letting her know I made the choice to stay with him
Mhm.
because the things that we had been through in our lives, more good had come out of it than not.
Mm.
And so it is something to just see Molly on this journey, and watching her on this journey is I do not match Molly professionally, right? Or even in the dating scene, honey, because Molly cannot go anywhere without somebody trying to holler at her.
Cause
Let's
she
be clear.
fly. Cause she fly.
Because she's fly in every way. But I will tell you, in terms of a vision of what love is and what I used to think it was, I have in these recent years been learning just that breakdown of that it is different for everyone. And what
Mhm.
works for A does not work for B, and C never even thought about it. So
Mhm.
it's just those things to keep in mind.
Mhm. And sis,
But
you know
then
who else? You know who else gets
ooh,
that lesson, learns it real good, is Tasha.
listen,
Tasha, right?
go,
We all remember
move in.
Tasha, played by Dominique Perry, does a great job.
Yes,
Tasha
she's
is the
so
first
good.
woman that Lawrence hooks up with after
Hmm.
he and Issa break up. And mind you, Tasha was a strumpet in the corner, flirting with him, even while he was in a relationship, before. So she became
Hmm.
a strumpet
Hmm.
at the point where she knew he was in a relationship and she continued to flirt with him. That's when she
That's when
became
she became a
because at first she
trumpet.
was just a nice girl
She
flirting with a
didn't
nice
know.
guy. But then when
She
she
didn't
got
know.
those details and leaned in further, that's when she became a strumpet. Just to be clear, you're not immediately a strumpet. A strumpet is a choice you're making. You're choosing to be a strumpet. So she was a strumpet. And then then she breaks then Lawrence breaks up with Issa. He continues to see her. And what we see throughout the season is Lawrence treating her like a very casual partner.
Hmm.
He is not seeing her during the week. He only sees her on the weekends. He doesn't take her out. One of his friends, Derek, actually ends up, actually, no, it was Chad.
It
Chad,
was
I think.
Chad.
Chad calls him out on it. Chad, played by Neil Brown. He's such a
Or does he
delight.
call him out or does he congratulate him?
He,
he
yeah,
congratulated him.
he congratulated him by saying, and Lawrence didn't realize he was trumpeting
And-
her, that he was, and Chad basically like called the whole thing out. He's like, yeah, doing a great job of trumpeting her.
Keep
And
it up, man. That's great.
Yeah, way
So
to
matter
go.
of fact.
And so he ends up trying to be more in relationship with her. He wants to lean in and give it a try. And she invites him to the family barbecue. He goes, stays for a while, ends up leaving, kind of goes, hangs out with his coworkers, kind of plays her face. He actually has a moment, and we'll get into the details later, where he ends up, rebounding with Issa. And he comes back to Tasha, and finally she reaches her breaking point at some point, and she basically says, I'm not going to take this anymore. But it was another one of those situations where there's a model of love that's out there, of, if you're not taking care of your man, I can take care of him, then he will come to me and we will be in love forever. It's our destiny. This is another Lifetime movie storyline, that the man is with the wrong woman.
Is the woman who knows.
Yeah. And here comes Clean Up Strumpet. And guess what? She finds out the same lesson that Molly finds out, which is that love is not perfect. And then it turns out that being a rebound strumpet is not necessarily, maybe for some people it is, but for her in this particular situation, it was not the way to her destiny. And so,
I will tell you, I don't know if this was a term that they picked up and then added it, or if this was a term that became popular because of the show. But an F-boy, listen, she doesn't just call him out. She lets him know, like, you're a bad dude that thinks you're a good person.
She says that's the worst kind.
That's the worst kind. And so I just wanted to put that out there, how she told him off.
Oh, she told him real good. And he needed to hear it. And so Tasha also learns that lesson. And, sis, maybe that's a good segue to Lawrence. Talk about Lawrence a little bit.
Lawrence, well, you know what? I don't feel like we needed Issa's storyline.
That's true. There's still more there.
I feel like we got away from her because we've been having to bring her back up. So I would love to circle back to her romantic life, since we are talking about romance.
Yep.
One thing about it, so Issa, as we were saying earlier, okay, she's in her what?
Hoe phase. Yeah.
Okay, as she put it, right? Issa is done with the concept of love, whatever that might be. She does not care. Issa is ready to be out here and experience, because you learn through her and Molly's conversation, right when she was about to start having this whole phase with Molly, she met Lawrence. And Lawrence cut all that off. He did it. And she just started to be in a relationship. And now she's like, listen, she's on her Maxine Waters, reclaiming my time. She's reclaiming. And oh, does she? With her neighbor. She does. She gets on dating. Okay, she is. She's out here with people.
His name is Eddie, and he's played by Leon Thomas III, which some of you may know from the show iCarly. Now,
yes,
this ain't the
going
same.
From seeing him on. Okay,
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready at all to see him go. But that's the way to make sure you don't get boxed in as an actor. Because now he has been like a teeny little bopper, on iCarly, like a little fun, little charismatic, humorous guy, to now like a sex symbol in this show, who is like this kind of like weed head, basically, is kind of how they portray him. But he's a student. He is, so he's not like, not contributing, but he's just very much on the spectrum of like personas. This ain't the iCarly Leon Thomas III.
Listen, we're not breaking out into no songs,
girl. No, we ain't.
Not on this episode, honey.
So I just wanted to call out his name, though, because again, he did do a great job, and now we know his range as an actor because we've seen him in that other character. So he did a really good job.
He did do a good job.
Anyway, you were listing out her rotation. Yes. Yes. I'm sorry, I interrupted your.
No, that is fine. Listen. And when there is a particular event that Issa does go to meet one of her next ho-tationers, and his name is Felix. And she's going there to have a good time, but also to meet up with him, which this is something I think that they did so well. In the beginning of the season, it does show Issa going on a ton of dates. And it shows you a glimpse of what online dating looks like.
Oh,
Online dating. I just
grueling.
really feel like a moment of silence for all of us who are in this time frame where we have to online date.
It's grueling. It's grueling.
It's horrible. It's
Mm-hmm.
horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I mean,
in this online,
it is just grueling.
it's
And
overwhelming.
we watch her going on all these dates, and they're just bad dates, bad date
Yes,
after bad date.
they're bad dates.
Mm-hmm.
And what you also see is how cheesy it is, as if there's a list of questions for get to know you questions that they're all going through. Where are you from? Where do you work? Oh, you like kids? Like it is just the
The chit
same
chat.
thing. The chit chat.
Ugh.
Well, she meets Felix, and there is no chit chat.
It was
Felix
so
immediately
funny.
lets her know, you look very different from your picture. And is
No,
that
his
your voice?
exact. he said, he said, he said, was your hair looks different than it did in your photo. And she said, yeah, I changed it up. He said, well, can you change it back? You know?
It's so rude.
He says, well,
It's so rude.
do you ever change it back?
So
You know?
rude.
And then again, as Brittany said, she's talking, and he said, is that your voice? Do you always sound like that? I just imagine that it would sound different. But you know what I do appreciate about Felix is that he wasted
Yes.
none of her time. Not a
Zero
minute.
amounts.
Not a minute.
Not nary.
I would prefer that. I prefer that over an ounce of energy being spent where you
At
know,
all.
if it ain't working for you.
At
Okay.
all.
If it ain't working, I'd rather hear about it.
Please get off my team.
Yeah.
And so at this same event where she has met Felix, who pops up? Let me tell you something. All cities are large, but they're also small.
They're so
If
small.
you they're so small. No matter where you go, I don't care if you live in the largest city on the planet, you're going to run into someone. And Issa runs into Daniel, but really she sees him first. She's not sure if he sees her, but she has seen him across the room, hanging out with some of the artists that were in season one. And in this moment, she walks up to him like this. Basically, she's like, I'm putting my big girl panties on and I'm gonna go say something, clear the air. And Daniel is like, oh, that we're good. That was months ago. I'm over it. Like, I'm not thinking about it. You as the viewer are going, is he really over this? Or is he just saying that so this conversation can be done?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really know. But with that interaction, after that event is over, a group of them go out to get something to eat, I guess at a well-known spot that I'm pretty sure is famous in that neighborhood that they highlighted. And Daniel is there as well. And so in this scene, Kelly with Boo, they're getting a little frolicky under the table. Okay. And so Issa's sitting beside Kelly and she moves and she goes to sit beside Daniel. And in that moment, you see who she was friends with. It's almost like, no, I really forgive you and I really am over it. And they're almost picking up where they left off, in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
which part of this rotation, Daniel is added in.
Mm-hmm.
And
you know what,
it
though?
kind of catches you off guard. Oh, go ahead.
You know what? It didn't catch me off guard, sis. You
It did.
know,
It was like,
no, because it was just too dramatic in season one. You know, it was too dramatic. I knew Daniel was coming back. You know,
Yep.
it seemed like he was coming back. I think though it's so funny because they do start to sleep together, and they're in a and Issa wants it to be casual. She really wants it to be casual, but you know, I think we all know the truth. Like I have said this many times, like Well, first of all, I have a personal policy that I think it's hard for men and women in ever to have platonic relationships, because I feel like, or a straight man and straight woman to have a platonic relationship, because I feel like the kind of chemistry that it requires to have a really solid friendship is the kind of chemistry that it is required to have a really solid romantic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel like the sex is always out there, even if it hasn't been had, And so when you have already given in and you have had sex, to try to dial it back to casual when you have already had friendship-based sex, it's impossible to qualify that sex as casual.
Let's also place on there that it was mind-blowing.
There you go. And it was like for years, unrequited. Yeah, I mean, it's like,
it was, you could probably just still go out to the restaurant and hang out and not think anything of it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it was what they had up in that studio,
yeah. So they start seeing each other, as you can imagine, and Issa ends up getting, she has to move out of her apartment. She needs a place to stay. She thinks about staying with her brother. No, I don't think so. Her brother Amal, he's making it a little hard for her. Even just the conversation, even just talking about moving in, he's like really making it difficult. And I'm going to say living with a sibling can be really hard. Me and Brittany tried it. It was not top notch. It was not top notch.
You guys,
it wasn't a good season of our relationship.
You think it would be good because we had separate bedrooms, separate bathrooms, so we don't have to see each other unless it's the common area. And Genia is always busy. So you think that everything would be fine.
But it just wasn't. It wasn't at all.
We just didn't do well. Now she's in New York and I'm in Pennsylvania.
And it's just fine.
We're so close.
And we think we think it's a really great number of miles. Just between us, just in terms of like relationship maintenance. It's like really great.
It's so good.
Closer than we've ever been because we're far apart. And that serves us well. So anyway, Issa has to move out of her place. Okay, and I just want to say, her brother Amal is played by Gene. I'm not trying to pronounce it. Eli, and he's funny. He's funny.
He's so funny.
And I think it's a testament to actors when you believe the relationships are real. And they truly have a brother-sister dynamic of like, shut up, It's so
interaction between them in the car.
It's so funny.
Interaction between them in the car. There's one scene where she's going to give her key back to the landlord and take a once through the apartment, make sure she didn't miss anything. Nothing is messed up. And he says to her, "How long you gonna be in there?" And she describes everything I just said. He just looks at her and she's like, 10 minutes. Because he's looking at her like, that's not a time frame.
Yeah.
That is not a time frame.
Yeah. It's so good.
Their relationship is hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
But I do want to say, Genia, this season, as the season 1 did, but in each way, it was showing Black and brown skin in proximity to whiteness and what can happen. Issa's neighborhood, as we were speaking about Frida earlier, how she got the promotion. She made a statement like, "Oh," Issa asked her, "You said, I want to congratulate you on the promotion. Let's go get drinks." And she makes a statement like, "Oh, there's so many places to go in Iwood." Iwood equals Inglewood, you guys. So we know what. And so what you're seeing is in Issa's neighborhood, certain restaurants are closing and new ones are opening. Mm-hmm. So where there was maybe a fried chicken burger spot, there is now Froyo. Mm-hmm. So you are starting to see this gentrification happen words like I would are starting to come about. And in Issa's own apartment complex, to back to the reasons why she needs to leave, there is a rate increase, a rent
Mm-hmm.
increase at her apartment complex, which you're starting to see all of a sudden construction happening at this complex where the pool has never been working. It has always had a caution sign around it. And now all of a sudden it works.
Plenty of
And
upgrades.
there
Plenty of
are
upgrades in the building.
plenty of upgrades are happening. Noise violations are now being given to the tenants if they're having some sort of party or anything.
The main
Just the
drag,
neighborhood.
the main drag around the corner used to just be a street. Now they're turning it into a promenade, and
Into
all the stores
promenade.
are closing.
You
So
guys.
so
Yeah.
we're
So this
watching,
is
and
yes.
they have this showing this reality in season 1 too, of gentrification and the way
Yeah.
it's just playing itself right on out in this area. So anyway, so she ends up having to move. And so she can't live with her brother. She can't afford her current place. Her and Molly decide that they can't live together, just because of the same reasons that Brittany and I can't live together. Sometimes
Yeah.
you're just too close. You can't do it. And so Britt, she can't afford to be on her own. Where does she end up going, sis?
Listen, threw us for a loop. Who opened that door that she was at? She's at Daniel's door.
Couldn't
Now
believe
we
it.
knew what the door was when she got up to it, but you're like, I think it's supposed to be her brother's door.
Maybe a
I
mall has a
love
similar
how,
door.
yes, I love how what this show will do is that it brings you into situations.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't give you any discussion. Just like at the end when Molly opens the door and it's Jerome, there was no discussion that she was still talking to him. We just see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
Issa, you never even said to us that was a consideration that you would be living with Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
You're at his door. I'm standing
Yeah.
on the couch. He's like, I know. What? So you see, and in that, to they get to that point, in her kind of being with him, she is in this place where she is like, I don't want to be serious with anyone. But Daniel is actually starting to catch feelings for her.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of see that play out as well. Now, I didn't know where you wanted to go next with it, but
Well,
I did
wherever
want to
we
talk
going, we
about
better go fast. Look at time is just passing. Oh my
it's
God.
passing. Oh my gosh. Okay,
Yeah,
you guys, we're
we're
almost
we're at
done.
an hour, sis. I just
Are we?
Yeah. If I think yeah, we
All
are.
right. Well, we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
We are wrapping up.
Gotta,
One thing
gotta,
I do
gotta
want
wrap.
to what makes this even more really particular about her living with Daniel is that Issa goes to a conference with her friends called a Sexplosion. And part of this, they're having a conversation about fellatio and how Black women don't want to do it. And Tiffany is like, listen, that's why none of y'all got a man. And she's like, they're like, Tiffany, your life has been different. We found out that Tiffany basically grew up going to all white Catholic schools. Like, so you're learning more about Tiffany's past as well. And so in that they go to a blowjob course. And so Issa decides to do what she's learned up in this course on Daniel. And Daniel does something that she just is not expecting and gets very upset about. And she he basically ejaculates in her eye and she's like, how could you treat me like this? So you're seeing all of this happen in their relationship, and then all of a sudden at the end of the season she's living with him.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening right now? But in that, going back to the scene that I was talking about, Issa does get an opportunity to speak about Lawrence, which to see Lawrence, which I think will be the last thing that we speak about, because again, Janai is letting me know that we are way past time. So so we will talk about Lawrence. So Janai, if you could talk about Lawrence a little bit,
Yeah.
and then we'll go from there.
Mm-hmm. So Lawrence, played by Jay Ellis, we know that at the end of season 1, he was after 2 years of being unemployed and laying on the couch, professionally, he's in a new role. He's at a company, I think it's called Meridian, and he's a programmer, it seems. And we're watching him. A lot of his, we're getting a lot of a look at his work life. And he finally gets a chance at work to pitch the app that he was working on for 2 years on the couch while living with Issa. And it's called Woot Woot. He pitches it to the company, and basically it falls super flat. It gets no trajectory. It is not happening. Turns out it's a bad, outdated idea. The first person that gives him that real transparent feedback is someone who ultimately becomes a love interest for him. And the character's name is Aparna. She's played by Jasmine Coward. And, she essentially gives some candid feedback. She's like, listen, it wasn't great, and she ends up giving him some coaching over a couple of episodes where she recommends that he goes ahead and starts working on somebody else's app to get some inspiration and to get the juices flowing. And it turns out that the app that she has told him to work on, it's a program that's being run by her ex. And so, Lawrence, while the two of them are getting closer, they're dating, they're hanging out, he's also watching her interact with her ex, and they're very friendly with each other. And she references him. She says he's funny. She says we're not sleeping together anymore, but I still enjoy him. He's a nice, fun guy. And he sees that playing out. He talks it over with his friends. And it's like guy friends. Can you all, anyway, we all do it. We all just fuel our friends' fires. We all do it, And he talks it over. He talks it over with his friends, and they're like, clearly, you need to shut that down. And so he ends up,
and they wanted him to shut it completely down.
And so he ends up becoming so jealous, and so that's just like this undercurrent in his relationship with Aparna. And ultimately they end up, breaking up after though, he has taken her to, again, this birthday party that's being run by Tiffany. It's Tiffany's party with, for Derek, and, it's Tiffany, so of course it's a production. There's seating cards, and there ain't no seat for Aparna. That's for damn sure. And her ass comes up in there. Lawrence was wrong to bring her, knowing that Issa was going to be there, and also knowing that this is Issa's circle. She was wrong to come. But knowing that this is Issa's circle, well, what, but her concept of exes is not the same as Lawrence's.
It's not.
And she doesn't know the whole sordid tale. You see how she is with her ex. She's cool with her ex.
She's besties.
She's besties with her ex. And so when Lawrence is saying my ex is going to be there, she doesn't know that he's saying it in all caps, 100 size font, ! Italics, papyrus. She doesn't know that.
Exactly. Okay? Because the way she describes this guy at work is every time we had sex, we were both drunk. She doesn't know you're about to come see someone I was with for 5 years. We lived together.
Yeah.
We broke up 20 minutes ago.
Literally 20 minutes ago. And I'm still quite sore about it. And you're basically a rebound. That's what, because she doesn't know all that context, And so, long story short, her presence at the party is awful. It's awful. And they end up breaking up. But her presence at the party is the catalyst for a couple of conversations that are really important for the Lawrence storyline. The first is an argument, a heated argument with Issa right after the party. Or actually, they leave the party early to go outside and argue.
I was about to say.
It leads them to a heated argument where they both just kind of, say what's been on their minds. Since that argument, I thought was a very important moment because they really laid it out.
It was very important because his perspective of Issa, which this is a broader conversation of how men and women are treated in a cheating situation. He called Issa a hoe. And he actually is quite emotional because he was on Kelly's Facebook, on her Instagram page, saw just in the background Issa and Daniel having conversation, and he unfriended Issa on Facebook. And didn't just unfriend her, he blocked her.
Mm-hmm.
With this, Issa went crazy. Finds out about Tasha. She's talking Tasha. She starts talking. She's trying to figure out what's going on with him, and that is the combination of the two of them coming together and getting out some needed argument that maybe has not happened.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this is a confusing moment because during this season again, they slept together when he came to the house to pick up some mail. So you have all these Issa's in her mind. Are we getting back together? Lawrence knows, no, I'm absolutely 100% done. That was just the itch I
Mm-hmm.
needed to scratch, right, if you will. And they get into this argument, and Lawrence is like, "You're a hoe." And for Issa and for all of us watching, it's like, "Are you serious? Is this really statements coming out of your mouth?" And Issa basically jabs at him and says, "How's Woot Woot doing?" So it was a really harsh
But
and
this is what happened
horrible
when trust is
conversation.
breached.
Yes.
It's when trust is breached. I mean, he
I
doesn't know. He
mean,
wants to believe that there was only the one indiscretion, but when there's no
who
trust,
knows?
it's like he can't take her word
He
for it
doesn't
because her
have
word
anything
has lost all meaning. He has no faith in her anymore.
at all.
So he says it
But
harshly, but it doesn't seem inaccurate based on his experience.
But I will say, even though, which this is how friends can give you good and bad advice at point times. Derek, who was giving him bad advice about make sure that he's not messing with her friend at work, he also gave him advice saying, like, listen, you were on her couch for 2 years.
Yeah, you
You
were.
let your woman support you for 2 years willingly. You did nothing. I appreciate Derek giving him that dose of reality, that dose of
Mm-hmm.
conversation to say, although what she did is messed up, do not do understand it wasn't done without cause. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't give her an excuse, but do realize that you were part of that. You were part of whatever frustration that she was having. But I
Yeah.
think that argument leads us to where we'll end. I think Janelle would be great to just discuss about their last conversation.
Their last conversation. They needed, I mean, when you think about like the various phases of loss, you have to get through anger and you have to
Mm-hmm.
get through that negotiating, that grappling
Mm-hmm.
with, and you have to go through denial. Like you have to go through those phases to get to acceptance.
Mm.
And that's where they are at the end of the episode. As you know, Issa had to move out of her place. She has some of Lawrence's stuff. She wants him to take the couch. She gives him a sense of like, I'm going to be out of the house during these hours. You can come pick up the stuff. She comes back to the house and he has waited for her. And so, and they end up having a conversation that can only be called closure. It was truly the two of them, number one, owning up to their part of what happened. There's a part where Lawrence says, I know that I let you down. I realize I wasn't the person that I should have been for you.
Mm.
And Issa says the same thing. She says, in that 2-year stretch, you needed me to step up and I didn't know how to do that. And so I want to let you
Mm.
know that I still love you. Lawrence says, I still love you too. But they really acknowledge that they both really let each other down and that they didn't show up in their love the way that they should have. And
Mm-hmm.
I love the way that the show was actually produced. I mean, they actually gave us an opportunity to watch Issa. Normally they show us what's going on in Issa's mind with her doing rap in the bathroom. She
Yeah.
goes in the bathroom and we get a chance to hear her internal narrative. Well, you know
Yes.
what? This time, we actually get to see her imagine her life with Lawrence. She imagines them getting married and coming back to that same apartment. She imagines them getting pregnant and he's like enjoying her pregnant belly. And then she imagines them with their child and living their lives together and looking successful, thriving. And she imagines all of that in just a blink of an eye as they both say goodbye to each other and he walks away. And so it was a really, really, I thought, great way. If anyone who's ever been through a breakup, will know that sometimes you don't get that closure.
You don't.
Sometimes
You
it
don't.
just ends, and you don't always get a chance
Hmm.
to go through those phases together. But they did. And they got a
They
chance to have
did.
that closure moment. So I thought it was a poetic ending to that
Yeah,
relationship. But
it was.
there's still a ton open. Quick rundown of the
So
open
much.
questions at the end of season
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
First of all,
Hmm.
Lawrence, can you get a better project at work? Because Whoop Whoop was not great. What's your next
Wasn't
big
awesome.
idea? It wasn't. What's your next
Wasn't
big
awesome.
idea? So Lawrence, you're not dating Tasha. You're not dating Aparna. What's up with you, Lawrence? Who you gonna be dating? When it comes down to Molly, she's in the job market. What's she gonna do? She gonna stay at her firm where they ain't treating her right? She gonna go to a new
Where
firm?
after all that, they gave her an award for being outstanding.
They literally printed an Avery template of a certificate and handed it over to
I
her when
couldn't
she
believe it. I
requested.
just
And I
couldn't
could
believe
believe
it.
it. And I could believe it.
Oh gosh.
Will Tiffany's relationship with Boo continue? Kelly's relationship
Kelly.
with Boo. How is the pregnancy gonna go for Tiffany and Derek? Are we ever even gonna meet Chad's girl? What's her name? Layla? Do we ever even meet Layla? We ain't met her
Listen,
yet.
will we meet?
Where's she at? I think it's Layla.
Where's she at?
Yeah, and then Issa's now living with Daniel. Okay, how that gonna go? Okay, so those are the questions. And then Molly, she's dating somebody's husband and Quentin.
And Quentin.
Is that all the open questions, sis? Did I get them all pretty much? Like the big ones?
Listen. Oh, and is Issa still going to have her job?
Is
Because
Issa still gonna have? She got
she
some
was in
negative
hot
feedback.
water after
Yeah,
there were separate study sessions. Segregated
she would
is
have
the best
had that
word to say.
promotion if she had used better judgment.
Mm-hmm.
So will she still have that job?
There's so much.
Yeah, so much.
Well, you guys, I know that putting a whole season in, I initially was very zealous. I said, we're going to do this 30 minutes. We shut that down with the first one. And so now, really shut down with
And I
this
want you
one.
all to know
But
it was in a pressureful way that she told me the 30 minutes. It was as if I was going to be the weakest link that was going to make it impossible. So I just want us all to acknowledge that Brittany has also contributed to the length of this video, to both
and
of
I'm
them.
proud of it because listen, you are
I just want the
now
record clear.
refreshed.
I just want the
And
record
I
clear.
think that this hour, maybe 20 minutes versus a whole 8 episodes, we're doing good. We're doing really good.
You're right.
So you let us know in the comments what you're thinking about season 2. Are you going to go back and watch it? You let us know about all those things. We love to hear just whatever it is. And let us know if there's something else that you want us to add into in our episodes. Please join us back here for season 3. That is going up of Insecure that we're going to do a refresher about. So please, Genia, let everyone know again where they can find you.
Yeah, I am on social media at the only Genia Wright.
And I am on all social media platforms as a Be Right Breeze. So again, thanks you guys for being here with us. Have a good one.
Bye.